All right, very good. The number one question I've been asked when I was promoting this, what in the world is a social entrepreneur? You know, following a speaker who's a DreamWorks producer, I had to come with something fancy. Social entrepreneurship is basically starting things that affect society, the social realm. And that's a passion that I have. I'm blessed to be involved. As Tabby mentioned, I started many organizations I've been involved, many of which you guys have never heard of. Specifically because they failed, but it's all good. There is one success story that we have in the Jewish people, which is the epitome of social entrepreneurship. And that, my friends, is the story of Pesach. With the CEO being Moshe Rabbeinu, and venture backed by none other than God himself. A story that took a tribe from slavery and catapulted it to something that affected hundreds and millions of people for thousands of years. The birth of the Jewish nation. And I ask you today, if you were starting this, this new venture, what would be your inaugural event? Perhaps we'd have leadership exercises, team building exercises. What was the secret sauce that Moshe was told to give to the Jewish people, not then people, by then just a group of tribes, to become a people, to become a nation? What symbol were they supposed to revolve around to inaugurate this? And it's none other than a lamb. Pretty crazy. You think I'm joking? There's a story. In Exodus. Goes like this. This is the first mitzvah, the first commandment given to the Jewish people as a whole. So just picture that. First mitzvah given. Speak to the whole group of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household. Se lebayit. But if the household is too small for a lamb, let him share one with a neighbor who dwells nearby. Pretty profound, huh? That's exactly what you guys would have thought if you're starting your own nation. In these words lie a spiritual revolution. Hidden within these words are three cataclysmic, did I say it right? Cataclysmic, whatever. I didn't practice that one. Very serious, profound truths and paradigm shifts in a spiritual revolution. So let's dissect it. But before we get there, we have to have perspective. We have to have context. This is a Jewish people, this is Jewish families, tribes, all slaves. No ownership, no possessions. The only value they have is their GDP, their gross domestic product. What can you produce for the state? It's what's your value. That's all I care about. Can you imagine living in that situation? And even if you're not a slave, let's say you're just a citizen, and you want to be part of society, you want to be a part of a spiritual existence, how would you be involved? What outlet did you have to connect? After all, this is a spiritual revolution. Many of us go to Beit Knesset, to Kenisa, and we're just bystanders. That's exactly how they were. They would go to a temple, they saw some stuff happening. If there were sacrifices, they would take an animal, they would burn it all the way through for the gods. And everyone else just stood by just to observe, and that was their spiritual experience. That is what they were. And the basic message in all of this is that you do not matter. You are not relevant. And comes these words, and it says, first and foremost, take a possession. Take a lamb. Own something. Right? Own something. Take it, and I'll tell you something, says God. The Egyptians didn't let you have possessions, you have this possession. They only cared about what you did for the state. I care about what you're doing for yourself. After all, eating, chewing on a piece of meat, the Pesach offering, what in the world does it have to do with anyone else? How could it be that a barbecue, essentially what it was, can be also a sacrifice, a spiritual revolution? In this new nation, you are not a bystander, says God. You are an active participant, and every one of us is relevant. And each and every one of us is a priest. Step number 1 into launching your nation. Make sure the individual is empowered. Each person matters, and each person is as holy as the other if they do what they need to do. Step number 1. Step number 2, if we continue, after the person takes it, to a family and to a household. Seh lebayit. You see, when you want to look at most cultures, where do they feel that culture the most? Where do they feel that pride? We're in America. If you want to feel, where do you want to feel like you're American? You go to a stadium, 4th of July, fireworks, you feel American. Where do you feel most Jewish? Go to Yom Kippur services, that's where you feel most Jewish? The inaugural event is telling us that the primary existence, the primary point of where you want to feel Judaism is nowhere other than the home. The building blocks of the Jewish nation is going to be the Jewish home, the families. In Judaism, the home is the temple, not some kind of big thing. Yes, we have a temple, but that's 3 times out of the year. The main place where Judaism lives is in the home. We think that Bet Knesset is the place for the home, for Judaism. There's not one mitzvah in the Torah that you're obligated to do in the Bet Knesset. But you look from the inaugurating experience, Korban Pesach in your home. You take the blood, you put it on the doorposts in your home. You get rid of chametz of your home. Later on, mezuzah of your home, kosher kitchen. This is where Judaism lies. Oh, I forgot. Don't forget the most important thing we do in Judaism, in the home. Dayenu in the home. But that's where it's at. For those that are not Persian, we basically whip each other with scallions, and they call it Dayenu. So, the foundation of Jewish society, as we could see, is in the homes that we build. From the moment we walk into the room, as Saul mentioned, we kiss that mezuzah, and every step we take until we retire at night, and we say Shema Yisrael, our homes are exploding with opportunities of where it's at. And to build that nation, we have to make sure that we have what? Proper Jewish homes. Make sense? Going back to the pasuk, we have the individual being built, we have the home being built on top of the individual Jew, but we're building a nation here. And what brings a nation together? What brings community? What brings unity? Most nations, what they do, most tyrants, it's the enemies from outside that force it, right? When you have common enemies, you feel like you're closer, right? We just had elections in Israel. It's like a bloodbath, the attacks. All you need is one war with Syria or whatever, and next thing you know, everyone's hosting each other, north and south, and Shabbat and everything. And it's like, right? You imagine a guy, you get on a plane, there's no relation, you could care less about the people in front of you, right? Around you. It gets hijacked, common enemy, you walk off the plane, you're best friends. That's how usually nations go about it. But not in the Jewish system. Although Hashem might do that to us, that's not the primary way to do it. A fundamental point comes out. The second paragraph. If the household is too small for a lamb, let him share one with a neighbor who dwells nearby. You are not allowed to leave any meat left over. Isn't that crazy? You can't have any meat left over. So what are you going to do? You got this fat lamb, right? You got 4 people in your family. No leftovers. As much as my wife loves eating leftovers, you cannot have leftovers. They're delicious, by the way. There's no leftovers. You have to find someone that didn't have a seder and invite them over. And says Rav Hirsch, a fundamental point. More than the poor need the rich need the poor. You see, my friends, Hashem could take care of the poor without us. But we cannot fulfill our obligations without the poor. We need the poor, the ones that are less fortunate than us. And that begins the bond, that home to home, to care about the other home. You see, the way it works is that someone else's physicality in Judaism becomes my spirituality. That when I go and take care of the other person, that's me being spiritual. And you put all of these 3 things together. Oh, not Diana, of course, yeah. You put these 3 things together, you have individual worth with the possessions and all that, and then what I do matters. Number 2, you have a family, you make sure you're family-centered. And lastly, you make sure you have care for the greater community. And that you have the beginning of what we're building. And if you're able to do that, you are going to be guaranteed to be able to have a shot at a true Jewish existence. And like Saul mentioned, upcoming next week, in about 7 days, we're going to have an opportunity that we've dreaded the whole year. It's another time with the family, another this person, I don't want to sit next to this person. It's an opportunity, my friends. This is the inauguration of the Jew, and your lives, your individual lives, your family's lives, and not only that, of the entire Jewish existence. Let us remember that what we do matters, even though it's weird. We're going to eat this matzah, some guys come out with a scale and they start measuring it. It's all good. They're doing it, that's what they do, it matters. Let's not take our families for granted, even the annoying ones. Okay? Let's not take, if it's your grandma, whatever it is, whoever it is, let's make a full court press to be able to maximize our seder, because it's an opportunity, as Saul mentioned, it's a window in time. And lastly, let's find someone who's less fortunate than us. If we're in this room, there's someone out there that doesn't have a Jewish connection like we do. We can give it to them. If we're in this room, we probably drove here or took an Uber, which means we can afford something. There are people that can't afford Pesach, so there's many organizations you can help and give money to. And God willing, if we take all these 3 things together, we'll be able to have a very meaningful seder and catapult us to a cataclysmic great year. Thank you.